Welcome to Prove It. I'm Megan O'Connor.
And I'm Mary Cummings.
This is the podcast for people who know that they were meant for more, but just don't know how to achieve it.
Every week, we bring you real conversations, proven strategies, and that kick in the ass you didn't know you needed to become the person you really want to be.
I remember the first time we met, a mutual friend of ours told me that I had to meet you because you were doing some personal assistant work with him.
Yeah, I actually remember when he introduced us as well, and I was doing all the things for him. I furnished his Airbnb. I'm doing personal assistance for him. I was helping him out with his business. I had my real estate license, and he told you about me, and you were like, I need a Mary in my life.
He just said she was a go-getter, and I was looking to make a hire in my business, and I just said, oh, I'm looking for talent.
Yeah.
Let's have coffee.
She's got a real estate license.
Yeah.
Let's see what this chick's all about.
Yeah.
So that was 2 years ago now at this point, and it was a 1-hour meeting. I told you about everything that I was doing, and it was a lot of things. As we know, looking back on it, it was too many things. But one thing you said to me was, you're doing too many things. And I remember leaving that meeting being like, who is this chick telling me I'm doing too many things? I had just started my business, my personal and professional assistance business, and I thought it was the best idea ever, and I thought it was going to scale it and do all the things. And we met, and you were like, you are naturally going to find your lane and find the thing that you like doing the best that's naturally going to happen. And looking back on it, that was the best thing anybody could have told me at that time.
List out all of the things that you were doing, first of all.
Personal assistance, professional assistance, social media management, staging, and real estate. I mean, I wasn't really, doing a lot of real estate, but...
And?
What was the other thing?
You were working at the Hilton.
Oh, yeah. This was before I left the Hilton. Yeah, I was still at the Hilton. So I had a full-time job. I'm trying to start this business. I started the business as a personal and professional assistance business. So already that title of a business is all over the place. It's not niched down. So
were you doing social media management too?
I was, because that was the professional assistance side of things. And then it ended up turning into a marketing company.
The way that you were selling yourself was it was very well organized in everything that you were trying to do, but my brain was hurting, and how you were explaining all of the jobs that you had. I just looked at you and I'm like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
You got so mad.
And it wasn't. And I judged you based on, I'm like, who is this woman coming in here telling, I called a family friend of mine afterwards, and I'm like, she told me this and that, and she doesn't know what she's talking about, and like, where did this woman even come from? But again, looking back on it, I was too quick to judge you, and you were right. You were right. Now I just do real estate, and that's my lane, and that's what I'm happy doing, and that's what I want to do. And
nobody can have 5 jobs and do them well.
Something's going to drop.
Burnout.
Yep.
I mean, it's not sustainable.
And I did burn out. And so that's why it's like, you can't always be so quick to judge somebody based on the things that they say to you, based on one conversation. We didn't know each other. Mm-hmm. And look where we are right now. I'm like, I was mad when I left that conversation. I'm like, who is this woman? I'm never talking to her again.
Maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh. I think I was like, call me in a couple months when you've figured out a little bit more of your lane and where you want to be. But I liked being around you because I loved your drive. And I didn't know how I wanted you in my life, but I knew I wanted you in my life, in my world. But I knew you had to figure out yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, and a couple months later, you called me for staging, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll talk to her again. Like, she's giving me a cool opportunity. I might as well take it. So that's the thing, is don't judge somebody based on one interaction with them. And I just feel like as humans, we are so quick to make that snap judgment. You decide who somebody is, and it sticks in your brain.
I wasn't going to allow you to get rid of me that quickly. I saw a lot of talent in yourself, so I just kept using. I think you helped me with my social media for a little bit.
Yeah,
Your
for a month.
yeah. Your staging, but it's I would say pick your lane.
Yep.
Pick your lane and stay in your lane, and people are going to try and distract you, but
Yeah, there's always shiny objects out there.
but the one thing I want to get out of this one topic is the judgment, and that one conversation that we had for an hour, and how you walked away from it in a different way that I walked away from it. And it it's important.
And if I never changed my mindset after that initial meeting, or given you a second chance, or worked through the thing, it was harsh at the time, but it's exactly what I needed to hear. And if I never was able to evolve my mindset past that point of being like, "Ugh, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here today. We wouldn't have this amazing podcast and this great relationship that we have. It's, you have to evolve through this place of judgment, because it's only going to inhibit your growth.
I always like to think about the why, right? When you walk away from a conversation like that, it was like, well, why did she come up with that? Why did she say that? And it's almost understanding where she's coming from, and could there be some truth to it?
Right. And there was.
Instead of feeling defensive from it and giving people the benefit of the doubt, instead of having that negative perception of that person or that experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Your reaction is a unconscious physical reaction that happens, and you can't control your reaction or what your initial judgment is.
Like if somebody cuts you off when you're driving, is that person being an a-hole, or is that person going to the hospital and there's an emergency?
Yeah, and a lot of
what are we thinking that's happening there?
a lot of times they could just be an a-hole.
But if we thought, oh my gosh, that person must be there must be an emergency, he must be going to the hospital. If every time somebody cut us off and thought that person is in a hurry because of a reason, instead of thinking that they're just being a jerk, then maybe that could flip our mindset into a better space because at the end of the day, you're never going to know, right? You're never going to know why, or who cares who cut us off. Just give that person grace and say, that person, something's going on in their world and they're in a hurry, and let it be.
Yeah, and a lot of people will let that ruin your day, but you have the choice to respond in a way that's not judgmental or negative or angry, and let it ruin your day. Some people get cut off and they're pissed off for the rest of the day, and it's not worth your time and your energy, because the only person that's affecting at the end of the day is you, especially when this person
Not even if it takes your whole 5 minutes of your day. It's just like, for what?
Right.
Just let it go. Let it go. Even I read a stat, if you go to a restaurant 5 times and the restaurant's good, and you go the 6th time and you have a bad experience there, and you write a bad review, you're more likely to write a bad review than a good review in the 5 times you went there. And it's like, why are we so judgmental on everything we see, whether it's somebody walking down the street? It's just where do we get to a place where it just, I don't like what you're wearing. You don't like what I said about your business.
Yeah.
And having 6 jobs and doing all 6 of them well.
A lot of times it's because of what people have experienced in their past. It rarely has to do with what the other person actually said, or what they're wearing, or how they're acting, or how they're presenting themselves to the world. It's normally a mirror on you. And the reason that I did leave our meeting feeling that way is because any person that was in that position, that was in that seat across from me at the coffee shop previously, didn't see that in me. They didn't want me to win. They didn't encourage me to do the best that I could do. They didn't give me that hard piece of advice that I needed in that time. They just wanted me to fit in a box or be in a certain position and work for them or help them succeed. And it was never about me. So you can't blame me for thinking,
Right.
well, she doesn't have my best interest in mind because nobody before you ever did.
I always like thinking of things as like taking a picture, right? Seeing a picture for what it is or looking at the whole entire, like thinking bigger. In business, we always think about, like I always say, think bigger. Think about the whole picture and thinking about somebody's story. And, oh, well, where did she come from? Who, like, you ever sit down? I used to do this when I lived in Florida and making up stories about people that are
Yes.
sitting on a beach or wherever you might be. Like, oh, that's a couple and, they're having an affair, whatever, like, it just,
For fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And it's just like thinking bigger about somebody's story and saying, and giving them grace and saying, well, they're having a bad day or they're having a bad moment and letting it go instead of passing that negative judgment, because that's where our brain naturally goes first. And the more consistently you can put your brain in a giving grace state, the more you're going to naturally do it instead of thinking negatively, or judgment, as we're going to call it, is just an overall better state of mind that you're going to be more consistently.
And you're going to be happier. And it is something that you have to practice every day because, yeah, annoying and bad shit does happen to us throughout our lives. And it does. You're constantly getting beat down and having to pick yourself back up again. So staying positive and staying in a place of not being judgmental, it is hard, but it is something that can be trained. So there's actually a term that was coined in 2012 by John Koenig. It's called Sonder. And this may help you if you're struggling to get to that place of being able to not be judgmental and be positive when unfortunate things happen to you. So this is the idea that every passerby or every individual that you come across in your life has their own life that is just as complex as yours is. And you're the main character in your life, but they're the main character in their own life. And it's a big thing to wrap your head around. There's billions of people in the world, and to think that everybody has their own story is a very large concept. But once you conceptualize that, you realize how small you are and how unimportant the person in traffic cutting you off is to the bigger picture. Think bigger. It's not always about you. That person, they're going to we're just going to say, they're going to the hospital.
Everybody that cuts me off is going to the hospital. And when you start thinking in that way, it doesn't matter. And it's such a small piece of a day, it just doesn't matter. I was driving last week and they didn't flick me off, but somebody it was down Lake Ave, and somebody put their middle finger out and flicked off the person that was ahead of me, and actually knew who the person was ahead of me. And that person's actually had a hard life.
Yeah.
And it just was, for what?
Right.
For what?
And you never know what that person is going through that you're flicking off. That could ruin their day, and not in a negative, angry way, but in a sad way. Like, just be nice. You never know what other people are going through.
Yeah. So one of the rules is judge the behavior, not the person. I'm actually going to say that again because I find that to be really powerful and something that we forget. Judge the behavior, not the person. One action does not define who somebody is. And I feel that we are so quick to define one moment in somebody or an action that somebody does, and it's a pattern, it's not a moment.
Right. Repeated behavior does define who somebody is.
That's your character.
Right. But
Patterns.
One action does not define you.
Correct.
People make mistakes. We're all human here.
We are, and we all deserve some grace and some mistakes that we made. But patterns are obviously characteristic traits that do define your personality.
And that leads us into the next rule is get curious before you get conclusive. So before you're so quick to judge somebody based off one experience that you had with them, one thing that you see them do, one thing that you hear them say, dive deeper into who that person actually is. Ask them a question. Like sometimes that question is, hey, how's your day going? Seriously, it could make all of the difference in somebody's day, and people deserve grace. People deserve to have somebody look deeper into them before writing them off. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. First impressions, use them loosely. I can definitely use this rule a little bit better for myself because especially in business, right?
Right.
When we're going through the hiring process and I'm watching, I have a team that's working on a hire and I'm watching a video, and in the first 2 minutes I'm like, nope, keep going, Megan, keep going.
Yeah, listen to the whole thing.
Listen to the whole thing. It's just like, why am I defining somebody's actions within 2 minutes on, they can be nervous in their first 2 minutes. This is an interview and it's being recorded and you're sitting in front of two people. There's so many variables that can be happening in those moments. It's just, don't be so quick to judge on a first impression.
And I do always say first impressions matter. I do think they do, the way that you present yourself to the world, but it doesn't mean that
It shouldn't define you.
they can't be changed, and they can't be, somebody's doesn't need to be defined solely based on their first impression. Give them a second. Everybody deserves a second chance at the end of the day. So let's actually prove it, because there are stats that back this up, and there's been a lot of research around this topic of judgment and how our brains are wired to do so. And we don't just want to sit here and talk about don't judge people and this is how you do it. We actually want to prove it to you in the true nature of the Prove It podcast. So, Meg, tell me a little bit about the research on relationships that has been done.
I think that's very telling of how our brain is just naturally wired. So within the first minute that you met me and you were describing all of the things that you were doing, and my natural reaction was just like, well, that's not sustainable. Instead of going through that judgment, it could have been, well, where is she coming from? Maybe she has more experience, and maybe she used to be me 20 years ago. And it's just looking at that bigger picture and understanding why, or giving that person grace. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe there's something else going on in their life and why they're acting this way, and giving people second chances is maybe a better way to go about it until they've proven themselves in a different way.
Yeah, and taking this into business, look at Airbnb. There was somebody that was pitched to this company like, hey, you can buy this. And the individual that was pitched to looked at it and they were like, it's two guys renting air mattresses in their garage, and this month business isn't going to make any money. That judgment was $1 billion mistake on that guy that didn't invest in Airbnb, and he's probably kicking himself today.
Yeah. Do you watch all those? I watch the Shark Tanks.
Yes, I love Shark Tank.
All the Shark Tank investments that the sharks didn't make, like the Ring doorbell is the one on the top of my head that they didn't invest in, that obviously is now $1 billion
everywhere.
Yeah, that is a missed opportunity, where the judgment was like, well, nobody's going to invest in that, where obviously they were right. But it just all goes back to judgment and thinking bigger and giving people a little bit more grace or the benefit of the doubt until that person then proves you otherwise, that is more of just character than it is a moment in time.
Yeah, so stay curious. Get to know people a little bit more before you just quickly judge them and write them off, whether that's in business, whether that's in your personal life. Take the time to get to know somebody. Ask questions and really uncover who somebody is. You never know. They might end up being a POS, but they may end up being your best friend. So take the time.
I think we're all at fault of judgment, whether it's the person that cuts you off, whether it's a restaurant that you're talking poorly of, whether it is a person that you met that you started judging within the first minute of meeting them and knowing exactly who they were when you had no idea.
Yeah, and all of this comes back to reaction versus response. So your reaction or your judgment is going to be innate. It's science says, research says your brain makes that judgment. There's oftentimes not much that you can do to change that. You can train and you can train and train, and maybe eventually you can get to a spot where it's not as negative, but no matter what, your brain will still do that. And so it's about taking the time in between that judgment and how you're going to proceed in that conversation or with that person. So take a pause and take an audit of, why did my brain just go there? What did this person do to deserve me feeling this way or me thinking this way? And like we said, get to know the person. You don't have to respond in the way that you naturally react.
Right. So how do we start on changing the pattern of judgment to giving people a little bit more grace, understanding that it could be more of a behavior, character, getting to know people? How do we flip that script?
Well, awareness is the first step in any sort of change that you're going to make in your world. Being aware of, wow, I actually am having these negative thoughts, or I actually am judging people before they deserve to be judged, because, again, it's innate. Oftentimes, you don't even realize that you're doing it. So slow down and take that mental audit of, am I being judgmental in spaces that I shouldn't be?
Like a restaurant?
Like a restaurant, like in traffic, like anywhere that you are in your day-to-day life. Keep it for 7 days. Keep it in the back of your mind. Like, what am I judging that I shouldn't be judging, or that I'm judging too soon? And be intentional about the thoughts that you're having. And I guarantee it'll change the way that you look at the world and the way that you treat people around you.
I like all this. I think we're all too quick to pass that judgment on the way people look, what people are wearing, the way people are driving, new restaurants I would try, give them a second chance. I mean, all the little things throughout the day, we are constantly passing judgment consistently.
Yeah, and it's something that you can take moving forward in your life, but it's also something that you can look back and reflect on. So this week's journal prompt will be, we'll call it a write-off revisit. Look back in the last 6 months to a year and think if there's any individual or potentially a restaurant or a business that you recently tried and you were quick to judge and you decided, well, I'm never going to go back there again, or I'm never going to speak to this person again. It's your challenge to identify that person or that business and go back and either have a conversation with them or give that business another try.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, I'm going to do it too.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about your restaurant audit. I know I have one.
I have one too. I actually haven't tried it yet, but I've heard other people's judgments about it. So, yeah, new restaurants. I'm excited. So stop judging people before they've had the chance to prove themselves to you.
Perfect. The work isn't hard. It's just what most people won't do consistently.
If you're ready to master your mindset through small, intentional shifts, keep tuning in.
And if you've ever considered how real estate could help evolve your financial future, it's time to have a conversation, because you know you are meant for more. Now prove it.